Another innocent American caught in the crossfire, this time in New York City. Carrie Gabay, a top aide to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, was shot in the head by a stray bullet during a suspected gang fight earlier in the week. It comes as shootings and homicides are on the rise in several major cities. Steve, this is not just the big cities, by the way. This is a lot of small cities all over the country are involved, have seen these enormous jumps in homicide rates. This could affect our economy as well as our lives.
Yes, and we saw this in the 1970s, David, this war on police. When you didn't have a sense of safety, economies don't thrive. The first task of government is security from our enemies outside and from criminals within our borders. And the government is not being able to do that or doing it less and less because of this war on police. Ray Kelly, the former police commissioner under Michael Bloomberg, has come out with a searing, tough book about how New York is backsliding because we're not doing what worked in the 90s and the early 2000s.
And again, Bruce, it is not just New York. We see cities like Milwaukee, St. Louis, Houston, huge number of cities seeing these jumps in homicide. Is it a war against the police?
I think what you have is a situation, I don't know that it is a war against the police. I think we have a lot of issues going on in this country, including a mental health crisis. But I think in the 1990s, they spent more money, federal dollars, other dollars, and crime statistics went down. And there's a bill in the Congress right now about increasing community policing grants for cities and states, and I think it should be looked at. And I hope the presidential candidates start talking about this.
Yeah, well, I hope they do, Rich. And I think there is a war on police, and it is causing police to be a little more hesitant about going. In some cases, the police themselves are handcuffed in what they can do and can't do. L.A., by the way, has seen this enormous jump. In some areas of L.A., you've seen a 50% rise in violent crime. And in a lot of cases, the rise in crime is leading to a fall off in the economy.
It sure is. I mean, who would want to open a business in Baltimore right now? And I feel really sorry for the people who do run businesses in Baltimore right now.
Or Los Angeles.
One entire party, the Democratic Party, has basically is siding with the people who want to declaw the police. If you're a Democratic candidate today, you can't even say that all lives matter. That's considered racist. You can't talk about black-on-black crime, and we have a real vacuum of leadership here.
But, John, the irony is that the minority community is hurt the most by this rise in crime. It is always in the minority centers where you see the worst rises in violence when you cut back on the police forcing.
It's a good point, and I think one of the solutions to this, the way to end the war on the police, is to end the drug war. It's been a miserable failure, and it's forced police departments to put a lot of resources toward fighting it rather than protecting people from real criminals.
All right, but Emac, look, we had a drug war going on when crime went dramatically down when you brought in these new policing measures by Rudy Giuliani and people like him.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. The broken windows, meaning that you solve and stop little crimes, and that actually saves minority lives. The broken windows policing, when you stop crime from spreading, and we saw that over the last 2 decades, we saw crime plummeting when those measures were put in place. And by the way, that keeps businesses in place. And when you have economic growth, that means people are more feeling more prosperous, and they don't try to solve disputes among themselves. They go to the police.
And Mike Ozanian, if Black Lives Matter, you don't want to stop policing that saves Black lives.
Well, part of the problem, David, is that if you look at the cities where you've had long trends in rising homicide rates, like, let's say, in Michigan, Detroit, and Flint, if you go to Missouri, St. Louis, and Jackson, you also have long population declines. So what happens is the people who have the money and can afford to, they leave. And the people without the money, many of which in those cities were minorities, they stay and they suffer.
Steve, are we going to see or hear about this in the political campaign? Because so far it seems something that politicians are afraid to touch.
Well, and on the Democratic side, that is absolutely true. But on the Republican side, it will be coming up in these upcoming debates. It's a throwback to what we saw in the 80s and 90s. And I think people are going to emphasize, certainly among the Republicans, we know it works. Take off the handcuffs. Stop these insidious attacks. It starts with the White House. Always going to victims of the police, but never victims of crime.
It's not only taking lives, it's taking away the economy in a lot of these places as well. Well, the Cash-In gang getting ready to roll at the bottom of the hour. Eric, what do you got for us?
Hey, David, the U.S. set to take in thousands more refugees fleeing ISIS and Syria, but can we afford it? Plus, Kim Davis released from jail after saying she couldn't do her job because of religious beliefs. Should your religion trump your job no matter what? See you at 11:30.
I will be watching. Thank you, Eric. But up here first, teachers striking over wages, parents protesting school closings. Now a Forbes education plan to fix it all. You don't want to miss it. Coming up next.